Number 3, is the market proactively searching for solutions? Number 4, are you a member of the target market yourself, or are you at least able to talk to your target market on a regular basis, preferably live? Number 5, does the market have income to buy your solution? And if you can answer yes to each of those questions, then you owe it to yourself and your market to get out there and give it a try. So we're going to go into a few other things now in today's episode. We got, there's a couple other really big questions that come up, hang-ups that people have. And, it's understandable why some people get, and I've done it myself, get hung up on these particular things.
Well, and we actually didn't even really remember or realize this until we just were working with the platinum people and seeing, wow, these are the two things that seem to be the biggest issue with people.
Yeah, and in the platinum group, especially we have a bunch of engineers, so all very, technical, give me the numbers, give me the calculations, give me the specific things. And basically, one of the biggest hangups is numbers. It's, okay, what are the numbers when it comes to competition and demand? And, supply and demand are important considerations for a new business, but, people get far too hung up on them. And I think part of the problem is obviously analysis postpones action. And so, we've all heard the saying, paralysis by analysis. And so, it's like, oh, well, if I always have a little more analysis to do, then I'm at least doing something, but I don't have to quite act yet, because I'm still trying to think it over. And also the other thing is that, when you go to start into an internet business, it's easy to get in a position of you're waiting for somebody to give you permission to move forward, somebody to give you permission to act and succeed and do well. It's like, okay, yeah, you've got the right niche, now I knight you as ready to step up and, whatever process. And I guess people a lot of times choose like, oh, well, give me the numbers calculation so that when I crunch the numbers and get something greater than 100, then I know that, I can get started. And there's some dangers in that. I mean, first of all, because there's a lot of different variables, it's hard to just give one number and say, okay, well, here's the one thing to go after. And also you'll notice that for us, the primary criteria, the top 5 criteria, we didn't say anything about numbers in there. And there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, just from personal experience, when we decided to start Internet Business Mastery, well, let me rewind even before that. We decided to start a podcast together. And we're just thinking, okay, what are some things we could do it about? What are some things we're interested in, some things we're passionate about? And, internet business obviously was something we were both doing and wanted to do a podcast about. But when we went and ran the numbers, huge. Obviously there's a great demand for it. Lots of people online looking for how to market and how to start a business. And so, that's great. But the competition was also astronomical. These are people who clearly know how to play the search engines and all these different things. And so you're going up against people with millions of dollars and big budgets, and it can be very daunting. You're thinking, well, how are we going to make an impact? How do we have anything different to say? How can we actually make any noise in this market?
Well, and even how we decided to do that is a tip I'll tell at the end.
So, really, if we had listened to the numbers and what the numbers were telling us, then we would have said, nah, we have no business going into this. Like, let's pick something else. But sadly, we wouldn't be here today. Internet Business Mastery wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have a business that makes 6 figures for both of us. We wouldn't have a business that meets our fulfillment factors incredibly well, something that we enjoy doing, something that impacts people's lives, something that's grown into a thriving community. And, so if we listen to the numbers, all of that wouldn't happen. Now, likewise, about that same time, that's when I was deciding to get into the podcasting niche and decided I'm going to become the world's foremost expert on podcasting for business. And there were no numbers. Podcasting was so brand new that I went into the keyword tools and searched for how to podcast or podcasting tutorial, there were no numbers because it hadn't been around long enough for anybody to collect any data. So the data was saying, well, there's no demand for this, but I knew that it was a growing new thing, and I just had a gut feel about where it was going and its significance. So again, imagine if I had said, no, I better not. I was on the edge at one point. I remember taking a walk with my wife, and I had a list of 20 things, and like I could do this, and the other, and then it kept coming back to this podcasting thing. But I was like, I'm just not sure because I want to be sure there's going to be a market demand there. And she's like, Jay, I can tell this is the one you really want to do. Well, I think you should just dive in and do it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. That's why I keep bringing it up. Clearly, I think I know that myself. I just needed to hear somebody else say it too. So, if I hadn't, again, Internet Business Mastery wouldn't exist. I wouldn't have had the experience of writing a book, of being asked to write a book, and an experience of speaking at some of the biggest conferences about podcasting, and all things that have been incredibly, fulfilling and also profitable for me. So that's why we say, don't listen to the numbers.
Yeah, that none of that would have happened had you looked solely at the numbers.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to drive that point home.
Absolutely. So you have to be careful there. It's just one criteria. And as we pointed out last episode, it's not even necessarily one of our top 5 criteria. Yet this is the one that people want to make it all about. It's all about the numbers. And it's a convenient, and you know what, this is going to sound hard, but it's true in many cases. It's a convenient excuse to blame it on the numbers. Convenient excuse for inaction.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, well, okay, what does it mean then? If, let's say you do start running numbers and the competition is just way too high.
Yeah, this is the first one of those huge hangups. I hear this all the time. The competition's just too high. So I guess I can't do it.
I went into Google and I searched, and there's 5 billion results. It's like there's just way too many people out there. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go to let's do this right now. I'm going to go to google.com, and as you can imagine, for internet business, there's going to be an insane number of results. So if we search for internet business, there are 469 million results.
Yeah, and I remember it was tens of millions when we started. So it was still just a ridiculous amount of competition page-wise.
And guess who now appears on the first page of those results? Us.
Yep.
Imagine that, And so, if you've got a good search volume, and we knew internet business had a good search volume, we knew people were out there looking for internet marketing, internet business, we say just go for it. And we kind of already made the case with that with Internet Business Mastery. The competition was insanely high, yet we just went for it. We decided, okay, let's find a way that we can make our own splash in this market.
Well, and that's the tip that I wanted to give was when we were looking at this going, oh my gosh, the competition is just insane, but we were so passionate about doing it and talking about it, we looked at the market and went, what are they missing? Like in terms of the podcasting. So we listened to the podcasts that other people were producing at the time, and everybody wanted to be the guru on high. And some of them very rightly so. They were big guys. But they were talking like gurus. I know everything, and I shall give you just a little bit of information from time to time, like that. And we were like, hey, why don't we teach them what we've learned so far and just be regular guys. Regular guys teach it. So we found the hole in the market in the way it was being presented, and that's how we knew how, even though the competition was high, we went, look, our passion's super high and we know we can fill that hole. Yeah. Now, we didn't know if it would work. I mean, that's the part that you have to, have faith and jump in. But we thought, well, nobody's doing it like this. Let's try this. And now almost all of the guys that were there when we started are completely gone.
And, there's a lot of those guys who have tried to get in and use podcasting and have just not been able to beat us because we found our channel that worked well for us and for our audience and a voice in that channel. And that's another thing to remember is there's a ton of opportunity in different channels and different traffic sources out there and in other, quote unquote search engines, so to speak. I mean, a lot of times, and this is another reason why you can't get too hung up on the numbers is, you go, everyone that says the